All right. I'm here with Sergeant Travis Griffith this time. And as I'm telling each of you, I want each of you to know that I'm asking y'all the exact same questions. But if your response prompts, kind of a follow up question or something for clarification, I'm going to go there. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one unique question for each of you,
Okay.
and that actually stemmed out of some friends that have been to the various forums,
Mm-hmm.
which I wasn't able to attend any of them, and so in overhearing things, it was like, oh, well, something left me with a curiosity or wanting more information
Sure.
out of each of you. So that's your unique question you'll get in a minute. But let's get started and let me make sure I'm good to go there. Okay.
Thanks for having me here, by the way. Appreciate you.
Well, I'm delighted you are here today. And it's a pleasure. Actually, all three of y'all were able to kind of go boom, boom, boom all together. So it's
Good.
kind of like that all fits really good. I appreciate all of you. So, all right, here we go. Are you ready?
Oh, always ready.
All right, okay. All right, what motivated you? What motivated you to throw your hat in the ring and put yourself out there as a candidate for the chief of police for San Angelo, Texas?
So every division or section I've been a part of, everything from officer to supervisor, I've always wanted to make it better. Like whether that is learning from each other or developing younger officers into even better versions of what I would call a leader that I am, right? To be able to grow them far above and beyond what I do. I think that's important. And I think I've done that very well throughout my career, whether that be in the anti-crime unit, the SWAT team, hostage negotiation team, any team mindset. When you're talking about law enforcement, the more you can get a team mindset in any division or section or patrol shift or whatever, the more you're going to find a quality output that you can really enjoy. So that just made sense to me to be able to go to the highest level to be able to affect change and develop those that are in different sections and all throughout the department to be able to help have a better, brighter San Angelo Police Department.
All right, all right. Well, we have the former chief of police in prison. That in itself kind of shouts that there must have been lots of issues and problems going on behind closed doors in the department when he was in charge. In talking with various officers and listening to things which have been said publicly during salary negotiations, it's obvious there have been some morale issues and other staffing challenges. What are some of the key internal issues that are important to you to address and improve?
I think getting back to what our purpose is, right? I think that throughout the years we've seemed to have kind of gotten swept up into the nation and the trend we see of anti-law enforcement sentiment. That I want to get us back to our purpose. It's not us versus them. It's kind of easy to get into that mentality. It is. I believe you can't police a society, like truly police a society without their consent. So just as much as society needs the police needs the society. Now you can be a bully like Russia or something and control a society, but we don't want control. We want police, right? And so when I look at that, I think about the ability for us to be able to develop these guys into more community-oriented minded police officers, to get back to the core that it's more serve than it is protect in almost every aspect of it. That there's so many times that we have the ability to change people's lives. And I think if we can get back to the purpose not just being throwing them in jail and then go and get the next guy, let's find ways that we can get to the core of what issues are and help that individual not do it again, right? That's what I want to see happen. If we can start cultivating that, I think it's cultural. So I think if we can get back to having that mindset as a department to really look for ways to make a difference and to not just be somebody that's just showing up and trying to throw people in jail for the sake of throwing them in jail. Let's find what's going to help the community as a whole be better.
All right. San Angelo is not an island. for a desert. Uh, Sadly, though, it is directly impacted by many state and national issues.
Mm.
One in particular that isn't being addressed openly yet, really, in our community, is the crime challenges that are happening due to the illegal aliens that have plowed through our open border just south of us. Traveling the state with my work, I see the horrors. I hear the chatter of citizens and visibly witness the apparent illegals wandering around on the streets, walking the highways, sleeping in doorways, and trashing our beautiful state. What are you seeing here in San Angelo, and how do you intend to address this growing crisis?
Sure. I think thankfully, because we are somewhat of a desert island, as you think you said there, we are off the beaten path.
Yeah.
We have not seen the same issues that you'd even see in Kerrville or along the interstate down that way in the south, or around Abilene, Midland, Odessa. So thankfully, we're a little bit insulated to the degree that we see at other towns in our general area. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We definitely do see more drugs for sure. I mean, I can tell you, just working with people in the sober living community, that there's going to more funerals than they've ever had before.
Wow.
I think that the price of narcotics is the lowest I've ever seen. So you can buy meth at a much cheaper price than what you used to be able to do. So I mean, when you have a market flooded, the number is just 7 million people that they know of that came across in the last 3.5 years, right? That's what they know of. And so then, who knows what that real number is? I guarantee it's very high.
Yeah.
And we have to be real about the threat that brings to our community, and we can't just be like, well, no one's ever going to do anything to San Angelo. We have to think about the terrorism side of things. We have to look at what's going to actually make sense for us in a mass casualty situation. And I think that could be partnering with our sheriff's department and our fire department. We're already working on some training through that right now. But then going further, the number of first down ambulances is not going to be able to cover a major incident. So working with our volunteer fire departments in the area, once a year, twice a year, to be able to bring them in for any type of major incident training, to know here's where we would go if something massive was to happen. It's better to think about what we would do in case of the worst case scenario, and hope for the best, right? And prepare for the worst. So in the area of regular crime, I mean, we haven't seen just a whole lot of stuff that's just off the charts here in San Angelo. I mean, it's nothing that I've just took notice of more robberies or something like that. I really haven't seen those kind of things. Thankfully, the amount of like bailouts, what they would call it, has been really low here. So when you have a vehicle loaded with illegals or something like that, gets at a traffic stop and they all run away. I only know of 1 or 2 that's occurred in Auburn County. So hopefully, as we continue to move towards the next election, and we can see some change at the federal government level, hopefully, to be able to shift what we're doing, because the federal government is completely left us high and dry. There's just no other way of putting it. They have left us to fend for ourselves, and that's normally I would not agree that local police need to be enforcing any type of immigration law, but in this case, I think we have to, because we're given no option. Mm-hmm. We don't get to. Senate Bill 4 has not been ruled yet by the courts, and we're going to need a lot of training out of that. We need to work with our sheriff's department to find out how that's going to work, because I mean, it's a lot of moving parts to that Senate bill if it does move through. So a lot to it.
Yeah. And as citizens, we don't think about all those aspects.
Right.
At all.
It'd be nice to just be able to magic wand, but there's the real world, and room in our jail, and how we're going to get them, because a lot of people don't know in the Senate Bill 4. There's a requirement. Well, there's a section where they can self-remove themselves from the country to have charges dropped. Well, how does that work? What are we going to do with that? The courts can also have them removed. So I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. Who's responsible for that? And we're going to need some definite direction from maybe the Police Chiefs Association or the Sheriff's Association of Texas.
Make sure there's not little loopholes that people fall through.
And right now, it's highly litigated, and all the states are watching. There's a lot of states that want to copy that if it works.
Wow. So. Wow. Okay. The Mexican cartels.
Yes, ma'am.
They're actively working on the Texas side of the border today. How active are they here in San Angelo?
I think we'd be naive to say that they're not here. Just recently there was a very high-ranking member of a cartel that was arrested here in Texas. So if their high-ranking members are here, then their operation is here. Again, I want to see us move towards at least having the conversation with the sheriff's department and maybe the local state police of their CID to look at an option for a task force. I think we all do great work. SAPD, narcotics, and street level enforcement is good. But I think let's not silo our work. Let's work together and be able to have a task force that can help find and isolate any facets of the cartel that's in San Angelo and kind of go after the head of the snake on that.
Yeah. Do you feel that the citizens of San Angelo need to be better informed about the crime issues in our community directly from the San Angelo Police Department versus the news media outlets who just want a good story that if it bleeds, it leads, as they say?
Right. I definitely am. So my part of my platform is being transparent. One of the opening paragraphs of the Texas Freedom of Information Act, it says that we, the people, maintain the right to retain control over the instruments which we created. I'm the instrument that's been created. You shouldn't have to fight for information from your government. It's we, the people, not we, the government. And I think the more that we inform our public, the better they'll be involved with us, right? Again, policing together. So I think it's instrumental for any police agency to just be painfully transparent. And I tell you why that's so important is, you touched on failures in the past from the San Angelo Police Department, right? When it comes to being painfully transparent, that's not so much for the people as it is for me, the future police chief, if that's the Lord willing, right? Mm-hmm. That if I'm being very open about what we're doing and how we're doing it, then you will know if I'm doing a bad job, right? You'll know if I'm falling short of the mark. And then if I stop being transparent, then something's up again, right? I think that's where we've gone wrong as a government, because if more elected officials would go that route and more people would start to take their cues to see, hey, we need to be more involved and know more about what's going on ourselves. Yeah, that's important. And I'll piggyback off of that. I would love to create a chief's advisory board. It's not an oversight. It's basically the people would elect me, right? In that case, and so I'm beholden to them, right? I'm accountable to them, the people, right? So the more that I can get out there and be involved with the people and find out what's going on, and be able to get their input, the more that the community is, again, actively engaged in the policing plan there. And the more that we're open about it when we just talk about issues we're facing, what's happening there. I'd love to do it by precinct, city council, district. So go through and actually move it around throughout town to help people come from different parts of the community and bring in the city council members if they want to come. I think the more that we can work together as a community, the better we'll find a safer, stronger San Angelo.
Because right now, I would dare say that it's pretty segmented. Everyone is focused on their own particular assignment, and there's not a lot of interacting between it. And I've been out of the loop for a couple of years working on the road, but that was kind of always my sense at that time, and I would guess that it's still pretty much the same now.
Yes, ma'am. And I think anytime you can bring government more on the same page, there's different. I've done some research, long before running for police chief, and there's area law enforcement all throughout this west region of Texas that will have various nonprofit meetings, government meetings where they bring in the sheriff's department, the local federal partners and their local state partners, and bring them in to include the nonprofits that work in and around law enforcement, and have a meeting once a month to be able to share intelligence, find out where they might be lacking, where they might have a nonprofit might have something that would be really applicable to us in law enforcement, or maybe to the sheriff's office. It's just a great place to be able to have a kind of a roundtable discussion on what's happening in and around the community. The more we can do that, the more we're on the same page, the more we're not siloed.
Right. All right. Politics tend to bring out the good old boy way of doing things. Many people today are exhausted with seeing this and ready for this to be done away with. Do you see this in the department? And if so, how will you address it?
Oh man, the good old boy system is one thing I've never been a part of. So that's a unique side of things when you come to politics. I I'm just a guy that is making my way in this world. This is the way I like to say it. Like I believe that the Lord guides our way, and that it's His will be done, not mine. So if I find myself being the police chief, it's not because I'm a part of a good old boy system or anything like that. It's because that's where the Lord wants me. Mm-hmm. And I think the more we can get down to doing the right thing for the right reason, and a lot of times it's the hardest thing, right? That's just kind of how life is. And so the more we treat people, regardless of whether or not they live on the north side or the south side or the east side, we treat everybody the same. We give them the resources. We're actually gonna follow the crime where it goes using crime data points, right? And to be able to deploy, hopefully, Lord willing, that we'll have resources to be able to get some cameras and different systems that we can use to be able to fight crime in the 21st century, and update some of our current systems that we have that can work alongside that. And that shows that we're not working off of good old boys, right? We're working off of where the crime is, regardless of who you are, regardless of what you've done. We're going to be there to help you. Whenever I had a great team that's helping me, and I had somebody said we need a slogan, and I didn't know. I'm not very good at talking about myself, but one of the guys said, you're kind of a chief for all the people. Because I've strived to treat everybody the same, right? Regardless of whether or not you're rich, poor, or in between. I think we're all children of the Lord, and we need to act accordingly to what He's called us to do. Mm-hmm. And so that is the outside. On the inside of the department, I think we can create pretty simple ways to cut out some of the good old boy system on the inside of the department, which some people talk about. That way, we're trying to actually find the highest qualified individuals for the right positions, and not be about whether or not you're part of the cool kid crowd or not. That you're going to actually get to where you need to be based off of your ability and your character in that position.
All right. This question I think you've already touched on a little bit, but we can go further. Would you want to get the citizens more involved with crime awareness, reporting crime, and possibly even fighting crime? And if so, how would you envision this happening? You touched on it just a bit.
Yep. I think that we've covered the Chiefs Advisory Board. I think, again, that's just a way that we can bring in a good number of people, that anybody that's interested, they can come in to hear what kind of crime we're facing, what are we doing to fight that crime, what are you seeing in your neighborhood, what kind of problems are you facing. I believe that the police, you shouldn't have to come to the police with your problems, right? The police should be actively trying to find the problems in their community. And that's one way to do that. You go out there to them. And if you're a regular attendee to one of these meetings, right, there's going to be people that are going to tell you things. They know that you're involved in that wouldn't tell the police anything. Yeah. They can talk about issues that we would probably never know anything about. In the last, 3 months or so, I've talked to over 1,000 people, right? And a lot of people say that they get a police report, and that's all they ever get. They don't get no follow-up. Nobody ever calls them. Nobody checks in. They feel kind of left out in the cold, so to speak, right? So I think the more that we can find ways to catch that early, because we're busy. There's a lot of reports we're doing. We're 20 officers down. That's not throwing rocks at the San Angelo Police Department, but it's also not an excuse. Yeah. I think we have to work with what we have, where we're at. And if that means bringing in volunteers, that means bringing in people that we can have do some follow-up to say, hey, just to call them, hey, any new information on your burglary of your garage or whatever, right? Anything new that you can provide us. And then they at least know we didn't forget about them. Yeah. It's important to know those crime data points too. So when people think about not reporting, because it allows us the ability to be able to detain people in those neighborhoods, right? So if you have a burglary that just occurred recently, and it was during the night hours, and you see somebody walking, that gives you under the law gives you the ability to be able to detain that person. So we need to know where a crime is out.
Oh, that's a good point.
And then also when it comes to keeping the public informed, if you know what kind of issues we're facing, right, then you're going to be more apt to want to be our advocate. Because if I'm keeping you informed over and over again that we're $15,000 below Abilene or Midland or Odessa or whatever, right? Whatever the issue may be in regards to pay and benefits and equipment. I think that is one of those things that we have to be real about, to say, hey, people always want to say, hey, they want to support us here, right? What can we do? Well, contact your city council member and tell them, hey, you want to support the police department in this area of XYZ. I think that helps build that community policing together. And I think the more we find that groove, if you will, the more that we'll be able to have a safer, better San Angelo.
All right. This tags on to something you mentioned too, so you were kind of already jumping out there. Is the San Angelo Police Department staying up to date with today's fast developing technology? If not, is this an issue that needs to be addressed, and how would you do it?
Right. Well, no, I don't think we really are. You can even compare us to like Abilene. Abilene has a cyber crimes unit. We're making some headway, but it's not been a super high priority. So the more that we can start looking at understanding that identity crime is on the rise, right? Especially with the development of 7 million people that just came into this country, right? One of the biggest things is they can't work. The vast majority of people that have come in seeking asylum can't have a job. So what's going to be on the rise? Identity theft, right? Mm-hmm. Stealing other people's social security cards or driver's license and things like that. So we need to be able to know that that's not going to be just foreign. We're used to where we'd say that be foreign. Now there's a chance of that being a much higher local. So we have to be honest about that. And when we talk about computers and license plate readers that we can have in the cars, that we can have license plate readers at certain intersections, that's not I would balance that strongly off of the Constitution. I don't want to just dump things to the federal government. I'm not a huge fan of the federal government right now. I'm cautious of say. And what I mean by that is that if we're going to use a license plate reader, that we keep that local and make sure that it's not being used inappropriately. But if we can get that technology in, it can help with burglaries and thefts. Same thing. Midland's just recently got, I think they got 80 cameras in Midland that are neighborhood-based systems that some of them are movable, right? You put them into where the crime's at. That's what I mean by following the crime where it's at. Because the more that, if you're sitting at the middle of the night and you're on your foot walking, and you can hear a car coming from a long ways off, right? Mm-hmm. So if a patrol car is going through the neighborhood, all they got to do is duck in the bushes, wait for the patrol car to go on, and they'll keep going. But if we get notification through one of these cameras that, hey, there's somebody walking in this neighborhood, then we'll know for sure there's something in there. We can not just have one police car.
You can look in the bush.
We can have more. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, I think there's lots of technologies out there and this is where I'd love to have that Chiefs Advisory Board to want to know, hey, how do y'all feel about a license plate reader at 6th and Bryant? Is this something that you could get behind? And here's how we're going to monitor it. Here's what would be our checks and balances. Maybe that's something that we give a report, It was accessed 37 times in the last 2 weeks, only by San Angelo police employees or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think, again, going back to the people should maintain the right over the things that they've created.
Right. Yeah. All right. Gangs, violence, and copycat crimes that are seen on social media. How much of this type of thing are we seeing and having going on here in San Angelo?
We have a gang unit, and they're good guys. That they some of the we're losing one here pretty quick. I hate to see that, but thankfully we don't see the gangs quite like we used to. There was a very high organized gangs. This is more of what you would call narcotics-based groups that come together for money. So used to was kind of color-based or based off of territory or something like that. This is now kind of becoming the colors green. So however they can make money together, and it falls under organized crime, just like what a gang would. Mm-hmm. And enforcing those is in-depth investigations. But I think, again, instead of siloing our work, if we can find a way, and again, this is still in infant stages and nothing that's been truly full-blown discussed with any one law enforcement agency, but I think if we all come together, state police, the sheriff's office, and the police department, to create a task force, then we would be able to fight that even higher because we're getting more information points. We're not one agency when the left hand didn't know what the right hand's doing, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll have more ability to share that intelligence, gather the facts that we would need, whether that be cartel, whether that be street level gangs, or whether that be narcotics-based organizations that are out there selling drugs. I think that's how we are able to fight that in a more effective way. And then when it comes to narcotics particularly, I think that we as a department and as a community need to not just focus. You have supply and demand, right? And so we always handle the supply side. We're always fighting the supply side. And I've been a part of special operations where we work drugs, and I've been a part of anti-crime unit where we work street level drugs, right? We were able to handle the supply, but we never focus on the demand, right? The demand side, that's the user side. I can't tell you how many times.
That creates the market.
Right, exactly. That's where I think it's super important that we get back into DARE-like programs, right? We have ADAC that's here locally. I think with ADAC, we can get curriculum from them, and then in the middle schools and in the elementary schools, we can actually start training using their curriculum, because officers are relevant to those age groups, right? They will listen to a police officer and do DARE-like or DREAM-like programs that can start help stemming the flow. Now, this is not a 1 year, 2 year. This is long-term effects, right? At the same time, we run into people all the time on the streets where we don't have a charge on them. Maybe they're riding a bicycle with no flashlight, or no light on their bike, or no reflector, or walking on the wrong side of the road. We contact them late at night, and we find out that they haven't committed any other crime other than that violation, but we know through their interaction that they're struggling with chemical dependency. Having the conversation, instead of us just saying, hey, you probably should stop that, right? Or giving them a flyer, hey, don't do that anymore, right? I think there's free software that you can partner with a nonprofit called Unite Us, right? So it's Unite Us together. That is where I think we can find the ability to dig a little deeper, spend 4 or 5 extra minutes on that encounter to say, hey, I understand that you're struggling with some methamphetamines, and have you thought about really getting off, and dig a little deeper, and then say, hey, with your permission, I can add you to the system, and you'll be able to get someone from ADAC or somebody from U-Turn for Christ or whatever it might be would be able to contact them. It's bringing the nonprofit world together with, and we see them, right? We don't need to be case managers, but we can start the case management, right?
Connect the dots.
Yep. And I think if we see that, we do that consistently. We train our new officers and train the current officers, because the vast majority of police officers on the street would much rather them get off drugs, right? Stop using. And my personal belief is that the number one way, the only way, is through the Lord. But there's a lot of places out there, though, that because they care so much that they are already, Jesus is with them, right? So I think that's where we can meet them where they're at, and find a way to be able to connect those dots, to be able to stem that flow. Because I mean, let's say there's 10 different times in somebody's life that they could stop using drugs as they're going through. If we can stop it on the 2 or 3 spot instead of going all the way to 10, then we just saved 70% of crime, because about 2/3 roughly of crime is connected to narcotics in one way or the other. So if we can reduce
family
that,
damage,
right? Oh, across the board.
Yeah.
And homelessness gets involved in that. Mental health gets involved in it. The more you use, the more that these things start to just continue to blow up. So I think if we can connect that side and pay, I'm not saying we devote all of our attention. Again, it's important to know that we're still going to be tough on crime.
Yeah.
But if we can find a way to get that started sooner, again, if we can stop it 2 or 3 or 4 times before it gets to 10, then we just saved a whole lot of property crime, a whole lot of pain and suffering in families, and now they can become an active participant in getting other people back where they need to be. So imagine if we were able to have a 20% reduction on the consumption side and a 20% reduction on the distribution side. That's a 40% reduction in narcotic-related crimes in 2 or 3 years, right?
Wow.
That's impressive.
Yes.
And I think that we can't just turn a blind eye to that. We have to be real what we can do as a community and as a police department to help further that mission.
Okay, once again, I think you've already answered the question I'm getting ready to ask. So I'm going to ask it. And so if there's something you want to add.
Sure.
So the question was the violence that we're seeing on TV today that's happening around our country is beyond anything we would have dreamed of 30, 40, 50 years ago. What are the key crime issues we are dealing with locally? How do we need to redirect things, work with the youth today, and to begin to, really set a new and better direction for our society tomorrow? And that's pretty much what you were just talking about.
Right.
Is there anything additional you'd want to add?
I would add to that. So I don't come at this from some naive standpoint, right? Throughout my career, the concept of wanting to better my position, like far as better my work team, better the wolves that work underneath me, that includes when I'm out there on the streets. I want to have real interactions that are authentic, because that's what matters. People know when you're being fake. People know when you're being a kind of a bully as an officer,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But people know when you're treating them with respect and dignity. The more we do that, the more we're able to have real conversations. And so I give the story of Armando. And Armando was a local gang member. And this is going back to 2011, 12 time frame, right? And I used to always run around chasing Armando and his other gang members, right? As a matter of fact, I was one of the last ones to arrest him on a blue warrant where he went to prison. I didn't see him again until I was at a Jesus Rocks the River event, and I was in uniform doing security there, and I was walking down the road, and here's Armando, and he sees me, and I see him, and I'm like, well, let's see what's going to happen here. And I immediately knew it was different. Immediately knew that there was something going on. Armando, he recognized me, and we had a conversation. And since that moment, we've been friends.
Uh-huh.
So Armando got saved.
Yeah.
He's been the same job. He's got kids. He's got been going to the same church. Right. He's actively, the Lord changed him.
Yeah.
Period. And that's the thing that I think matters is I told just to keep holding the course, man. Keep doing what you're doing. He's done even better than that through the Lord by the grace of God. He's been telling me I want to help the youth, and that's from day one. When he found out I was running for police chief, he was like, "Man, we got to do something." And I'm like, "I'm on it, man. Well, let's see what we can do." And that's going back to the youth programs,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you start talking about high school kids, parents, teachers, very few of those are going to have relevance in their kids' lives, right?
Yeah.
There's that point, wherever it is, a little different with each kid.
Mm-hmm.
They start becoming their own person and start trying to, like, I'm not going to listen to my parents or this teacher or whatever. I guarantee you Armando would have relevance, right? Armando could be simply to come out there and say, life's hard enough already. Don't make it harder by making the decisions I made.
Yep.
He would have relevance with them. And I think if you put that into first-time offense with vapes or first-time issues at school, right, long before they ever get into the criminal justice system, that's important. You know, our municipal court just recently moved back to teen court. I think that's great. I think that's we should be looking at ways to steer them early, away from narcotics and the life of crime, and towards being a more productive, active member in the society to help us be better and stronger. People say sometimes, like, well, Travis, you seem like you're kind of being down on San Angelo. It's not about nothing about being down on San Angelo. This is about the mentality of being better than we were the day before.
Yeah.
And if we continue to do that every day and keep striving to be more than we were the day before, then we'll find a community in a year from now that is drastically different in a better way, that makes us stronger, makes us more prepared to be able to face the challenges of tomorrow.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, next question.
Yes, ma'am.
Changing of the guard
Yes, ma'am.
is always a challenging situation. Do you plan to keep any of the current assistant chiefs in place? And if so, who and why? What do they bring to the table that you feel is critical for your administration, or do you feel a clean slate is better?
Well, that's a tough question, and I tell you why. Because I haven't told anybody anything like that. I've not directly told any person that I'm going to have them at any one spot. There's some reason behind that. I'll tell you why. It's because I don't want to look like I'm buying a vote, right? I'm swaying somebody to be on my side. You know, regardless of how many people that are helping me, I have some very dear friends that are helping me with this campaign. They know 100% that they have been told nothing of what they're going to be or not be in a Griffith administration. I think that that's important.
And that's the good old boy system.
Right. And I don't want to see it be. I don't want you to help me because of what I can give you, right? I want you to help me because you believe in me. And I think 100% across the board, that's what you see on my team, is people that believe in the fact that we can be different, right? That it doesn't have to be about the way things used to be or the way we've always done things, that we can look for ways to make positive change in our community for the purpose of being stronger and better. If we don't start thinking about San Angelo, people want to keep San Angelo in this little dome, right? We're going to keep it safe and we're going to take care of it. And that's great to want to think that way. And we should definitely hold on to our values. Our West Texas values is something we have to do. But to think that it's not changing, go back 10 years. San Angelo's already changed in 10 years, right? 10 years down the road, we're going to even see a more difficult challenges that face us. And so we have to be honest with what that means, and who we need to have in those positions to help lead us there is going to matter. And so, not to dance around your question, but my answer would be that I have told nobody, and I will not tell anybody directly that they are anything. So
If any of those officers, because I know typically, and I could be wrong, you can correct me if I am, but typically assistant chiefs, if they're not kept in that position, tend to retire.
they could,
And
or they would go back to the rank of which that they were before
okay,
promotion.
and so that was my question to tag on. Will these officers be given respectable positions to move into?
Sure, absolutely. So if nobody should be in fear of punishment, right? Imagine taking over any new organization, right? A restaurant or Walmart or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If somebody just comes in and starts cleaning house, it does no one any good, right? We have to unite after this is over, right? We have to come together for the betterment of our community.
Right.
And that means putting the right people where they need to be, whether or not they voted for me or supported me or what have you. We have to be honest with the fact that San Angelo deserves us. We swore an oath to the people, right? Not to any one of these officers or not to the city government. We swore an oath to the people. And that's what's more important. And that's what the priority has to be. The people first, and a very close second is the officers. And then everything else will fall into line. The more we keep those priorities in that place, the more we won't get out of whack, right? And so having the right people in the right place and know that there's nobody needs to have any fear of reprisal, because that doesn't help anybody. It's counterproductive. I subscribe to the concept of not so much about being in charge, it's taking care of those in your charge. And that's how I think we make the difference. Is you have to separate yourself from any biases that you might have of somebody, and understand the most important thing is to put people where they need to be, and then you evaluate that as you move forward. I mean, there's two sides of every coin. If whoever that person is or isn't can understand where they're at and why they're there, and give their 100%, then great, no issues.
Okay, what do you want the citizens of San Angelo to understand about the changes that are needed in the San Angelo Police Department?
So I think I would piggyback on this one a little bit to say that there'll be changes, right? Changes for good, right? We're talking about like being more open and transparent, having more press conferences and stuff like that to be able to keep you informed, and I think moving those press conferences to every social media platform that we can, to help keep them informed is huge. And then as we start moving into, equipment and pay and all these other things, the more that we can have them be involved in that process to understand the issues that we face. That's why transparency goes both ways, right? Because if you, the citizen, know that Abilene has a base pay of 93 to our 76,000, right? And that's not including their incentive pay. And they get there 8 years versus us getting there at about, depending on your education and your certification, but roughly 12 years, right? So there's 4 years difference of getting to max pay versus Abilene's 8. That's a retention issue, right? Because once you get to 8 years at Abilene, you're making roughly just under 100,000, depending on your education and what your certifications are as well. That needs to be the message, right, to the citizens, to know what kind of issues are we facing there. Because if they know that, then they can call their city council members and say, hey, why is there such a big difference? There's almost $24,000 here difference. What can we do to fix this, right? And then as we move through that, from everything from equipment to how we're going to police and what we're going to do, is going to be very open and transparent. So that way, if there is a red flag to be thrown, we'll listen to it and have a real conversation. There's always going to be people that disagree. And you don't just go with the majority. You go with what's right. And again, we talked about doing the right thing, and supporting that is often doing the hard thing. And sometimes that means telling them, hey, I understand what you're saying, but this is the direction we're going to go because of A, B, and C. I appreciate you coming in. Don't stop coming to the meeting. But we need to put this priority first right now because of A, B, and C. So the more that we communicate that to them, the more we can be honest and real with why we're doing what we're doing. I think that's going to provide the understanding from the public point of view to know we're doing everything we can to keep you informed every step along the way.
All right. Well, here's your unique question, and you've already, of course, touched on it. You've been really good at that this afternoon. Tell me more about the citizen committee you are interested in putting together and what you hope to achieve from it.
Yeah, so some people tried to hijack that as some sort of oversight committee. That's not what that would be. Again, the important thing is that the chief is elected by the people, and so that would be the oversight is the actual people.
Mm-hmm.
That the point behind it would be to actively engage people that care about our community, right? That want to be able to be advocates for different various groups, right? So it could be everything from your church to your friend group or whatever that want to come and hear. And the more that we can disseminate that information out, the better it is. Because I envision a place that we bring commanders from different, traffic division, narcotic division, patrol sectors, right? Having the city council member there would be great. Have them open up the meeting. This is not about Travis
So it's
Griffith.
very public.
Right, yeah.
It's not behind closed doors.
No, it's very.
Okay.
And you can have it as there's two different ways you can do this. And I don't want a subcommittee. That's not what I want at all.
Mm-hmm.
Subcommittees have a lot of rules and stuff behind it. What I want is an ability to invite anybody and everybody, have a core group of people.
Kind of a think tank.
Sort of, right? I mean, I would want to be able to say, hey, I want your input on what do you think about cameras at 7th and Broad, 6th and Broad. How do you feel about that? What does that make you, is that something that you would support?
That's our number one traffic wreck spot in the city, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Very high. Yeah, very high. And, that would go into, these cameras are license plate readers, right? They can also catch pictures of the drivers, right? So traffic crashes, right? Lost kids, right? Stolen, kidnappings, bank robberies, looking at elderly that might have be on a silver alert, and any type of major crime that happens, that we can automatically put that into the system, and it will start trying to scan for it. Maybe it's already been scanned. It goes in the past, and we'll go back and we'll say, hey, 30 minutes ago, this was going north on Pride. Now we're not searching everywhere to the south. We're putting more resources to the north. That's using technology to our advantage. And then if it pops right away on stolen cars, it can send in a call to dispatch. Hey, there's stolen car just went through this intersection. Here's a picture of it. And then everybody gets it. It's a very, I'm very careful though with that, because I want to balance that very strongly off the Constitution, right?
Yes.
How are we accessing it? What are we doing with it? And then being able to kind of relay that. Hey, again, telling it to the citizens. Hey, this is what we've done. This is how many different law enforcement agencies accessed it outside of us. So I think there's nothing wrong with somebody. Hey, can you check your system for a bank robbery that happened in Midland? See if they came through your town. Yeah, we'll do that all day long. But being open about it. The more that we can have those kinds of meetings and have the people be involved, and I think that's what's key, is getting people that might not normally come to the police, right? I want everybody to know that they have a place, right? That regardless of your walk, your color, your creed, whatever it is, right? We want you to know that we're going to take care of you, and we're going to do everything we can to have you be a part of policing our community. And so the more that we get involvement there, I think that's where we'll see an improvement upon people knowing exactly what's going on in their community. And I would like to see on major events the police chief coming out on a press conference to say, hey, we're at this homicide and we have our very best people working this case. And I want you to be praying for the victim, because we lost a loved one here in San Angelo. Be praying for that family, and know that justice will be obtained. We're going to do everything we can to get there. Right now, it appears that this is going to be a suspect-victim connection. This is not somebody just randomly going out murdering people. In the early stages of this investigation, know that you're safe. If you have any information, contact Crime Stoppers at 658-HELP and get that information to the investigators. And that way, people know they're safe. People know that we're on top of it, and we're getting our very best people to start investigating it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I'm closing. Any closing thoughts or comments that you would like to share?
Well, I think that I've been impressed with the amount of support that people have for our police department, for our community. It's anytime you get out there and start going door to door and meeting with people, you see that at a much closer view. And so it's been awesome to see that. And there's just the amount of people that, just by the grace of God, that's come out to support me. I just want to say thank them for everything. Win, lose, or draw, they've been amazing. And I think that my faith is so important to me that I'm going to praise the Lord in the middle of a win. I'm going to praise the Lord in the middle of a loss, right? That He's sovereign. And no matter what that looks like, I'm gonna go where He takes me. Piper once said that the things in life that happen to us that are hurtful, that hurt, right? That it's doing something, right? It's not in vain. It's doing something. So, Lord willing, right? And we're going to put our best foot forward and use the brain that God's given us to win. But if not, my purpose and who I am is not based in being the next police chief. My purpose and who I am is based on the Lord. And I think the more that we can stay true to that as we move through, then win, lose, or draw, we're good. April 22nd starts our early voting. I ask that anybody that listen to this that they put some real thought and prayer into, and ask that they vote for me. I think I am the best candidate because of my age. I'm perfectly suited in between generations. I think I can really help reach the next generation. And if we don't start putting a lot of time and energy into that next generation, then we're going to lose our country. And so we have to be real and honest about that. And I think it starts with being able to apply school safety and apply accountability to where it needs to be, and transparency, because when you know what's going on, then you want to be more involved. And when things are good, it's good. But when things are bad, they're bad, right? So we need to all know what kind of page we're on, playing from the same sheet of music. And I think we get a safer tomorrow. I'd love to see us move away from the typical pay based off of like what you would see in typical government is that you get paid. Everybody's at this one pay grade, right? You go by time and grade. Mm-hmm. I want to see us be able to pay based off of incentives in the area of fitness and knowledge base. If you know what you're doing and can prove what you're doing in your knowledge, that you get paid a stipend. If you're fit, then you get a stipend, right? If you're doing that to defensive tactics, having a set skills that you can go and get a stipend. So if you put $150 on each one of those, that's $4,500, right? That you would have at the end of the year if you're actively pursuing being more professional as the officer. Mm-hmm. So those kind of things are outside the box. I think we can get them accomplished. It's not about doing the same old song and dance. It's about looking for ways that we can improve day by day to be better for a safer, better tomorrow. So May the 4th, right? May the 4th be with San Angelo.
Well said, well said. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon and sharing with my audience your perspective on things. So thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you.